Hello, everyone. Hey, Al.
Hiya. Howdy.
We're back with our scattered production of the Body Movement Podcast. I like seeing all these algorithms on social media. Batch create your content, release on a schedule. And I'm like, fuck you. No, I don't want to do that.
Just doing what we can.
I want to, when we have something of quality to say and we've discussed it, I'd rather share that as, hey, look I'm not comparing us to Dr. Dre, but he only released like 3 albums. And one of them he still hasn't released. He was teasing us for a decade.
Yeah.
So It's like, you don't have to come out every Friday with an episode. It's just like, just put out some good stuff.
Yeah.
So fuck the algorithms.
Okay. Here we
All
are.
right. We've had too many guests on, so like I've kept my mouth in check. So I just wanted to swear out the gate.
Well, you did it.
Okay.
Okay.
People won't know, but you got a worse mouth than me.
I do. Okay. I do. I was going to say I've been controlled, very controlled.
Although I got a candid video from
that was not, yes. My son was making his own video, and I did not know he was videoing, and I was screaming / educating my children on what a shart is. And I actually think it's quite funny. I actually thought it was really good, like
it was great. Yes.
It was just parenting at its best and uncandid. Like that's how it works.
That's how it works. And seeing my nephew, your son, laugh at you explain was pretty epic on what a shart is. So there's anyways.
And my education so far this week to people. So this is a great time to do a podcast.
Hey man, that's right. We're educating the youth on bodily functions and let's educate our adult population today on how the body functions.
Yes, I love it.
All right, so today's topic. All right, welcome in everyone. Let's get to actually brass tacks here. We want to talk today, Al, and we've brought this up on several podcasts, even like our very first episode when we were trying to tell everyone what we're trying to do here. But the phrase, and it's one of these catchy phrases, which we don't always hate, but it's health span versus lifespan. It has been something Dr. Ovadia, who was a guest on our podcast, talked about, and again, you did it in our intro, very first episode. We want to talk about living quality life versus just living a long life. So high level, people love catchy phrases and stuff, but we could unpack probably for an hour and a half what health span versus lifespan is. But high level, what are we trying to get people to think about and frame their mind today when people are talking health span versus lifespan?
Right. So lifespan is simply how long you live, period. Health span is how long you stay healthy. So in our world right now, we are in general living longer. There's a little change in that from through the COVID era, where maybe it has dipped a little bit. The life expectancy has come down just a little bit.
Yeah.
But we are living longer, but we're getting sicker earlier. So it's talking about quality years of your life. So in the ideal world, you want to stay healthy until the day you die, right? Yeah. Like I think about our grandmother, like she was shoveling snow 3 days before she kind of went, right? Yeah,
took a turn.
And then she was a quick gone. Yeah. She was somebody that exercised, moved, kept her stress low. Yep. Ate meat, didn't eat a lot of vegetables, ate meat. And
she was high protein
vegetables. But she was, somebody that moved, and, and her mother, died one night eating ice cream in her chair. Like,
that's right.
That's when you think about how you want to go, like, like, when I die, I just want it to end, right? Like, I don't want to draw it out. I don't want to be sick. I don't want to be, going through so much or dragging my family through things. And I'm not, obviously there will be those scenarios at times, but the idea behind lifespan, health span is that you want to stay as healthy, as independent as you possibly can through your entire life.
That's right. I like that a lot better than, again, as somebody who's been more generally fit than the general population my whole life, I've had coworkers in corporate America, because I'm in corporate America, and it's a life that incentivizes you one way or another to not be active. So people are asking, how do you stay in shape? How do you do this? And to motivate them, again, I deal with a lot of the boys, the sales guys. I would always give them the tough love of like, hey man, like, kind of owe it to your family. Like, these are, married men with kids. It's like, and even then I was reframing it wrong, because I'd be like, it wasn't you're gonna die earlier, but which is probably also true. But it was like, it was that, do you want them in the home dragging you around to appointments, in hospice care, just like waiting for this sad inevitable? Or do you want to be like a beacon, a pillar of strength in your family's corner up until you're not? And that it's more like you're not going to be around long. It's more while you're around,
like vitality, right?
It's your vitality, and you're not a drain on it. You're a pillar of strength for everyone around you. So I like the way you've already framed it. We're all going to go. It's just a matter of, do you go with honor, or, Louis C.K. has a bit. It was like, we're just so soft. And he's like, are you going to be in a bed with everyone around you just going, I love you, So, so there's, I like the way you frame that. It's just like, you're around until you're around, but while you're around, there's no issues. You are not a liability to anyone, within reason. Obviously there's stuff that's not out of your control, but yeah, I like that a lot better than, hey, you owe it to your family to be around longer. We can't control how long we're
right. And I mean, think about self-confidence too, as you get older, right? I mean, one of my favorite ads, which is just an ad about health, is this old man who, I know we've mentioned it, who, dusts, it's getting close to Christmas time. He dusts off a kettlebell, and he's using this kettlebell, pushing it over his head. And his ultimate goal is to lift his grandchild to put the star on the tree.
That's right. On the Christmas tree. Yep.
Do you want, what do you want to do? How many people have difficulty getting up and off the ground with their grandkids, with their own kids? And I think that's something we're seeing, is that we're getting sicker younger. We're in worse shape younger.
Yeah.
So, being able to run and play with your kids and run outside or throw a ball and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
In order to be able to do that, you kind of have to, I always say, like, earn the right to do that. It's not like you should, you can pick up a baseball and just start throwing it. Like, most 40-year-old men that start throwing with their kids, their shoulder starts hurting because they haven't done any shoulder work. And so now you're going to pick up and throw a ball, even though it's not high velocity. It's not fair. You're not prepared.
Yeah.
Right. And then we fall into the rabbit hole of diagnoses and surgeries and all of that.
Right.
All which can be prevented. Not all, that's a lie. But you could prepare yourself better for that scenario of those things that you want to do. Do you want to be hiking? Do I want to be hiking with my grandkids? Yeah. Am I going to be able to do the steepest peak there is? Maybe, maybe not. But I want to be able to, go out and be active, for years with my family.
Yeah, there's a certain level of pride I take when I come up and visit you. Like, I am out in your yard for hours sprinting and running with my nephews and even and your daughter, my niece. Like, we go hard out there playing basketball and golf and tag and hide and seek and wrestling and boxing. It's crazy. Because your kids are crazy, but there's a certain level of pride. Like, man, you know what? Like, geez, I know a lot of dudes my age that are dads that I don't, maybe they got 20 minutes of that really in them, or, they can't fully play. They're just around. So having, just being in the mix with them is, I think, something everyone would want. So yeah, you're on mute.
And then that gives them exercise, right? That gives
them
the perception of being healthy and being strong.
Positive interactions.
I mean, the playful playing. So I think, the Healthspan lifespan stuff, the more that we focus on improving our health span, the more that gets passed down to generations as well. So how many times, and listen, work full time and I'm a mom of three, right? And I thankfully I have a good support from from our side, and like it's
Hmm.
but it's not easy to find time to exercise. It's
That's
either
right.
working it into the day.
I
Sometimes it's not. There's
I get it.
phases where it doesn't happen. There's
Yep.
phases where it happens. Sometimes it's 10 push-ups, and
Yeah.
sometimes I can go out for this, but the idea that, some people have the idea that finding time for that is selfish. I don't think that's a good
That's good.
perception, because if they're selfish about taking time now to build strength or to do some cardio or go out for a run, you don't realize, the upward trend that it will have for your family if you take time to do that. So even though, in this moment of my life, I'm not the best at it because of the chaos,
Yeah.
fit things in. And my daughter's perception still is, oh, this person likes to exercise like you, mom. So just at least like we're talking about it, we're moving about it. So at least that's her perception of it.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
you're passing
fine.
it down, and
Yeah,
you're around bringing them to those activities so
sure,
that you're supportive of it.
sure.
Yeah, I mean, I could go off on rants on selfish all day. Like that is a poorly defined word in Western society. Selfish does not mean the actual definition just means it's in your self-interest. It doesn't have anything to do with morals or ethics.
Right,
So if you're being selfish, that just means, and today when we say selfish, is people think you disregard for all other people. Selfish just
right.
means I'm taking care of myself in this instance with these activities, and then you'll have more to give. So
Yep,
that, like that's the other thing. Like we talk about like making
totally,
deposits in the bank, like a 401k, compound
totally,
interest over time,
totally.
blah blah blah. So yeah, I'm totally with you. So all right, yeah. So we're framed in the right way. We want to have the longest quality of life, and so I know you have some data points and some testimonials from patients you've been talking to, some charts that you work with in your mentorship groups.
Yep.
What are some of the key problems we're seeing today that contribute to I guess you don't call it a shorter health span, right? It's just a shittier health span, right?
Well, I think just general poor health, in
Yeah,
our country. So, I mean, the numbers are um, pretty scary, actually. I mean, since really the 1980s to 1990s, that our population is more obese and more overweight in general. So those numbers, the obesity numbers, actually have climbed much higher than the overweight numbers, but the overweight numbers are still climbing. So people are more overweight, more obese this now than we've ever been, and it's growing. The other is, since the mid to late 90s, it's a pretty sharp upward trend, not a nice gradual lineup. It's a pretty sharp lineup of percentage of people with diabetes,
yeah,
which diabetes is really a real big problem in our society. And not only that, but Alzheimer's is, there's some discussion with some of the dementia piece that maybe that's a diabetes type 3, where that's also a problem.
yeah,
Um, so, we're not moving in a positive direction in our country, specifically in the world. We're not moving in a positive direction
yeah,
for, so the kind of odds are stacked up against us in that way.
yeah,
Um, so whatever, as a country we're preaching and we're doing isn't working. So everybody's kind of falling into, you and I can go on this, I'm like, these new norms is happening.
yeah,
We're not catching people earlier enough. We're not changing them earlier enough, like in the way we work.
yeah,
We could be preaching, actually, I feel like there is a move right now where people are more aware of the physical activity guidelines, and it's probably mostly my circle that I'm surrounding myself with.
yeah.
Um, but we're not, people aren't hitting those.
Yeah,
Right?
there's a weird debate. I mean, again, the state of social media with health and fitness trends is just like very, very, very noisy. And there's good and bad out there.
Yeah.
But there's this weird trend of people, the general population, people like me that are either health enthusiasts or looking to start their health journey. the first place you go is social to see what people are talking about. And there's the weird, shitty trends. I just posted like Kim Kardashian doing these glute workouts with her trainer.
Yeah.
Like the shittiest, just
Yeah.
the shittiest workout like movement ever. And the trainer's like, yeah. So God, she has over 300 million followers. Girls love her and are lying,
Right.
and they're like, I'm going to start doing that incorrectly. So there's that. So then there's you guys, and then like the Fred Duncans of the world. Like you should be reaching us a lot, but really you're just talking to your peers.
Right.
And then like that paralyzes people. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because we're
Right.
like, oh, there's all this trendy stuff that looks cool. I'm going to try it. And then you're like, whoa, don't do that. Don't do that. And then people are
Yep.
like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do?
Right.
So I think people get stuck, and they're like, okay, how do I start? And
Yeah.
or even if I'm fit, geez, maybe I've been doing things wrong, but I don't want to stop moving. So it's this weird place where the population gets paralyzed. Pratik just talked about it on our last episode.
Yep.
There's more information and good
Yep.
information at our fingertips, but we're not applying it and pulling out the stuff that's useful.
Yeah, Levinson always refers to it as information overload, right?
Yeah.
So there's just too much. And I think there's so much pressure too on what people should be doing, right? And so,
Yeah.
I think it just, we talk about this all the time on here. It's just like starting with the basics.
Yeah.
If I have somebody come in with back pain and they're only walking 2,000 steps a day, my first goal with them is put a pedometer on and tell me everybody's got their phones and watches and
Yeah.
get your step up. And so, where do you like people where get so paralyzed where to start? But it doesn't even have to be a 30-minute exercise session a day. It could be 3 10 minutes. It could
Yep.
be
Yep.
just getting up and walking and moving. And so I think there's a lot of stigma behind like, oh, I have to go to a class and I have to do this and I have to do that. It's like, why? Like, just
Yeah.
pick 2 exercises and get really good at them, right? And pick, squats feel terrible, but well, how are lunges? They're great. Well, lunge, then
Right.
lunge. Let's
Yep.
move. Like, or
Yep.
people get hurt and stop everything. I have a guy right now who's
That's a pandemic, by the way.
it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like I have people all the time that like, yeah, I have a guy right now. I love him to death. He tore his distal bicep tendon. Active dude. He's like, I'm in spin classes with 65-year-old women now. I'm like, he's like, I'm their hero. Like, I love, they love me. I love being there. Like, I'm like, yeah, but it's amazing that you keep moving. Like, your
That's right.
arm is here. It doesn't need to stop you from biking. Like,
Right. That's right.
mountain biking, but spin biking, and all
Mhm.
that. Or, there's a big crossover effect for working one side to the other. Like, so you don't stop moving. But there is a big issue from medical people of telling people to stop
Yeah.
or making people so fearful that they don't want to move.
Yep.
Right. So sustaining exercise throughout life is number one of my priority for people, regardless of what you're doing, because strength, is probably one of the bigger issues in people. So, as we keep kind of coming back to the health span, falls are a huge risk as we get older. If people fall when they're, 60s, 70s, 80s, it can be detrimental. I mean, it could cause death in 1/3 of people. Sometimes it leads quickly
Yeah.
to
I've seen some scary stats on
scary
women.
stats.
Like once they fall, it's a
Yes,
wrap.
it's bad. It's
Yeah.
not. So, I don't know what the current research says, but, I do know, 5, 6 years ago, reading studies that was, 1/3 of people who fall end up dying relatively soon. 1/3 end up in some type of assisted care. And then 1/3 are kind of okay, kind of go back.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not a good percentage to me. Like, I don't want
No.
that. So,
Yep.
the frailty end of people, I think, really does come down to muscle mass and strength, first of all. So we talk a lot in this world about osteoporosis, which most people can cite as the breakdown of bone. Most people put it into women and think, from a hormonal side that it plays a big role, and it does. But also there's sarcopenia, which is the breakdown of muscle. So
Yeah.
if you don't have muscle mass that doesn't pull on your bones, then your bones can't stay strong either. And then if you don't have muscle mass, muscles are very important for the uptake of glucose. So with less muscle mass, you don't take glucose in as, you don't process glucose as much in your body. That's a factor for diabetes. That's why strength training helps diabetes, because you improve your muscle mass, which helps your body to utilize glucose the way it should. And then muscle mass in general is all about functional independence. Can you get up out of a chair? Right now in your 40s, you don't think about that, but in your 60s, you might, if you couldn't. And if you have a hard time now, you're going to have.
Hey, man, I'm in my early 40s. A lot of people in my peer group make the grunt sound getting up and down out of chairs.
Yeah. Or from the ground. Like, this is an issue, and so like those should be alarms, like, to you. Like, when you can't get out of a chair, or if you can't stand up from the ground, like, just get up. Like, no, don't hold on to anything. Like, no pushing, no grunting. Like, if it's that much work to get up, like, that's a sign that you've gotten weaker.
Yeah.
Right. So and then strength itself is a major factor into people falling, looping back to that, because if you misstep, like, listen, we all misstep, right? Like, I think people think like it's not that we misstep. Maybe we misstep more as we get older, but we can't catch ourselves. And to catch yourself requires strength, number one. It requires load, right? Yeah. So like the other day, like, I slipped on black ice, like, down. I mean, there was no warning about it. Yeah. It was just, it's upstate New York. It rained, it froze, there, you couldn't see it. Bam, down I go. And I was like, I wish I was there. I feel like this huge badge of honor that I just stand up from that, right? Like, I looked around, young couple walking was laughing at me. One asked if I was okay, and I was like, yeah, I'm cool. Like, I got up and I kept walking. Like, like, falling is a part of life, but catching yourself is more important. Now, I didn't catch myself, but I was, right, thick enough and strong enough that I'm okay.
Yeah, but you just rolled around and had some dirt on clothes.
Good, a little pride deficit, but I worked with older people who are building their strength, and one of the key metrics for me, or key things that they say, is that I'm so frustrated, I almost fell the other day. I was like, well, what do you mean you almost fell? They're like, well, I was falling, but I caught myself. And I was like, amazing. 3 months ago, you wouldn't have caught yourself. You would have went. That's what we were working on. Don't get mad that you tripped. Get mad that you can't catch yourself and not, or take action on that. Yeah. So strength is, I think, a major, major player in functional independence through life. And not only just maintaining that independence, but there is a lot about being strong and having muscle mass that impacts our health span.
Yeah. I think that people know this stuff. I get worried about people not being willing to invest something, money or time, into just like learning the basics. Like, I have 2 friends right now that they just want to lose weight. I'm working with them.
Yeah.
For free, because I'm not certified in anything. Yeah. I was like, here's some good resources. I shared a lot from Pratik and Dr. Ovadia, 2 guests on our podcast. It's like, we're starting with diet with them. But like strength training, you gotta go to a trainer, man. You gotta learn how to do.
You just have to learn a safe start.
That's it. Like, you have to just those introductory 3 lessons that gyms offer you with a trainer.
Yeah.
Like, take advantage of those, and then I just posted today about Kobe Bryant warming up for basketball, and this guy was in awe of him for like an hour straight. Kobe did nothing fancy. Yep. Just like basic footwork, jab step, pump fake, 1 dribble, up, routine, again. Right. And people got to get used to doing the same shit over and over. Yeah. But like, people, it's another society problem. We love novelty and switching it up and shiny new object. Like, dude, you got to do push-ups and squats and pull-ups for life. Like,
well, I think if you're with a trainer, I mean, I do think there's a percentage of people that can do it independently, because it's a behavioral thing. But what does a trainer mostly change is that you have to show
habits.
Yeah. Right. You
accountability.
Right. So like, I get comments all the time. It's like, I love coming here because it's, we do something different every time. Yep. In actuality, we're just doing a different squat.
Right.
the time.
Right.
You know, like, but then I have my people who I am very consistent with, like that we're working on weights with front squats, back squats, deadlifting, and we will program that once a week consistently in a manner that will increase strength with that. But other people who want that nuance, you can do a kettlebell deadlift, you could do a trap bar deadlift, you could do, you know, there's so many variations of every exercise that you can do that it's okay to vary them. And, you know, but it's still, I think for some people, because some people like me, like I'm a variety person. Like you're way more a consistency person than I am. I'm a variety person. Even if I know I need to do the basics, if I get bored, I'm out. Like it's just my mindset. So, but if I can goblet squat and I can back squat and I can do squat jumps and I can do other things and I'm filling my bucket. And we're good. Right? So I don't think I think there is something to say to the boring basics. And, you know, there are some things that I think consistently done, like, you know, pillar prep stuff, like side planks and planks and, you know, getting your glutes going and stronger. Like there's certain things I do, but again, there's buckets to fill. But if you're not sure where to start, don't be shy of boring basics. Like, you
That's
know,
right. That's it.
It's about consistency over anything else.
And that's what I've been doing with my friends. I was just like, listen, you got to get the protein goal. And I was like, and I'm not even doing, you can't have this or that. I go, hit your protein goal. Cause if you're doing that, chances are you're gonna be full and you're not going to hit all this stuff. And then we're trying to be, and then I'm like 10,000 steps. I just told them 3-4 days a week, like aim for that. And I go, purposeful walking doesn't count. If you're like on your job, you're doing this, you're like, so, you know, try and find 45 minutes, whether it's 20 minutes or 10 minutes, just give them it. Okay, so we're sicker younger. The other thing about Healthspan, I do want to say is a greater percentage of the population is living as long as we historically have. I think a lot of our health lifespan data is because like our infants used to die very young up until even in like the early 1900s. So modern medicine, which we bang on quite a bit, or at least I do in this podcast, has really helped us like stave off young infections, you know, novel diseases, acute diseases, respiratory diseases, all this stuff that would just like kind of kill us off when we were building up those young immune systems. And then to deal with disease that is inevitable sometimes, like your cancers and heart disease, like we can prolong those things, but we're not necessarily like living longer. Like people lived to 100 back in the 1900s, there's just less of them. So now it's just more of us that are able to tap into that.
There's more people to that point. There's more people in the older categories.
That's right.
Right. So you know, there's a lot more coming into
there's a lot more coming. That's right. And so like, that's why musculoskeletal health that is now that, and Dr. Peter Attia has talked about this, like now that we've warded off diseases and novel things that with medicine, it's the musculoskeletal that has been taking a back seat.
Correct.
And is highly correlated with all these other things of nutrition and sunlight and all the stuff that wards off disease. So
one other point to that is that I did want to cover is that it is known that we get weaker as we get older, right? Like that is a physiological thing.
You know, I can't bench 225 anymore.
Sorry, you could get 225. We could talk about that offline. Okay. But
because I can bench 100-pound dumbbells.
Yeah, you can bench 225. It's for you right now. That's programming.
It's just programming. Yeah.
You can get there. So we'll put you in your place with that. You can get there. We can talk about that. But you know, the physiologically after age 30, generally speaking, we lose a percentage of strength a year.
Not muscle mass, right? Strength.
Strength. I don't know. Actually, I don't know exactly, but we lose strength at 1% a year. Okay. Now, what I like to tell my clients is, listen, for me and you, that probably doesn't matter much,
right?
Because we were not at our pinnacle at 30. If you're an NFL player, it matters. And what do you see at 30 in the NFL? If you make it to playing in the NFL at 30.
That's exactly.
What do you see? Like you see people get slow. The quarterbacks do okay, but they're not having to, you know, like, but you're
throwing quarterbacks.
Right.
Yeah.
So you see that change because physiologically they were at their pinnacle of where they could possibly be fitness wise
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah.
Maybe you, I don't know, but me, I wasn't at my pinnacle at 30. So,
Yeah.
there's so much room to gain. My, ultimate height isn't as high, but I have a lot of room to gain. Right. So that's one point. The other point is that, when you start and when you've done this, you have a savings bank to pull from. So,
Yeah.
for a bit. And the bigger your savings bank, just like financial stuff, the bigger your savings, the longer you can go
That's right.
when needed. So if you get sick, if something happens where you don't, you can't exercise for 2 months because you're running around taking care of your family, you're doing things and it's like, hitting you and you can't make it, you just cannot make it a priority. It happens.
Yeah.
But when you can make it a priority, you need to, or else or else it becomes, you're not doing anything.
Yep.
So, I think back to kids and stuff like that, like you and me, like we had a really good base. Like we had a
For
great
sure.
we,
Yeah. Very grateful for that.
exercised through college. We, continued after that, played intramurals, played pickup, did all these things to build this base. So, I think in comparison, like, for me, even through like the kiddo years, like I'm still in pretty good shape in comparison because I had a big base going in, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yes, we lose a little potential after 30, but that's not, you would only really see the deficit if you were at your potential at
Right.
30.
Right. You can still wherever your max is at your age past 30, if you didn't have that base, you can still get there is the point.
Right.
And so you just don't know what peak you would have came from, but
Right.
that doesn't matter.
Right.
I'd love to. I've been trying. I'd love to get. You ever follow Method Man rapper?
No, but I know somebody that trained him.
You do,
I do. Yeah.
dude. He's like 53 now.
Yeah.
He's a fucking monster. I mean, I don't know what he's on.
Yeah.
He does say he's all natural. I'm sure he's on some good supplements and stuff, but
I mean, this
like, dude, he's doing like 10 sets of incline dumbbell bench press of 120-pound dumbbells
yeah.
for like 6 to 10 reps, like 10 sets.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just like a machine. He's totally, and he was never in a fitness guy. Like he was just a soft, skinny, not fat, just like skinny, soft.
Yeah, but at that time, you didn't publicize that either. Like the guy I know trained him 3 days a week 10 years ago. Right.
Oh
So
yeah,
like,
I mean, in the past 10 years, he's done this. But like when I was coming up in the '90s and 2000s when he was in his hip hop prime, he was not a fitness guy. And he was addicted to weed and all this stuff. And like he's just, I think he's pretty much totally clean. And fitness has become his new addiction, which is not a bad thing. But at 53, this guy is, I mean, just like a total inspiration. He should be a total inspiration to people.
well, that's what, like, I think, like, if you're looking at, if we were kind of talking about this before we came on, was, if you want to be able to run a mile at age 60, but you can't run a mile now at age 40, you're not going to be able to run a mile at age 60. Like you have to build the base because you're going to lose some.
Yeah.
So, the more you can sustain the level you're at or work the level or, continue to improve yourself, there's correlation between being able to run, at a certain age. I don't know the exact numbers off my head right now, but to run at a certain age and then be able to walk stairs when you're 70.
Right.
Because it's, again, like the ability, the cardiovascular, the strength ability to do all of that.
Yep.
You have to work.
Yep. That was like one of the last things you did want to touch on here. So it's like as we're getting sicker younger, as we're weaker and fatter and more diabetic as a population, strength training becomes more important. You've mentioned you have a ton of people in your circle and or patients that doctor's visits are a weekly or a monthly cadence for any assortment of ailments, musculoskeletal or otherwise.
So much time is spent with people going to doctor's appointment as we get older.
Yeah.
Like
And
I can't even explain, like, I mean, I don't know your exposure to it, but I'll have people in here that are coming to see me, and then they're going to the cardiologist, and then they're going to their primary care to get
Like
this.
Friday's doctor day, right?
Every day is doctor day for like 1 or 2 hours, and they're like different specialties and different this, and okay, the back, so we got pain management, and I mean, I just think of like the time that when you retire, like how you picture it, isn't running between doctor's appointments, and that's almost being laughed about as the new norm. Or like you can sit down and listen to conversations of people, and their conversation is based around doctor's appointments or injuries or health concerns. Like that's like so much of people's energy. It's crazy.
And starting with these basics and getting going at no matter what age is the point of a lot of this is you can reverse all these trends, you know what I mean? But you got to be patient and stick to it and stick to the fundamentals and
start now.
Just start now. And then the last point you wanted to touch on was, and you kind of alluded to it, was we've been talking about building up your bank. This is almost like a retirement of health. Like you're making deposits every time you work out, every time you make a good health decision today, it pays off in the future. You have a bank you can, draw from, so to speak, in the event that your body's going to be taxed by something. But you were just kind of alluding to the prediction of what you can do today versus the future. I know you wanted to kind of like hit that as an umbrella point. So how does that kind of fit into everything today? I know you're talking if running a mile today could equate to just being able to do a flight of stairs in the future, assuming you change nothing else. Are there more examples of that, or is there a bigger overarching philosophy and studies that you wanted to kind of hit on there that can teach people on this?
It's just if the higher up you start with your fitness, the more gradual the decline is, right? So, even back when I was in PT school, which is, approaching 20 years now, which is nuts, but it's called the slippery slope, like once you start coming down the slippery slope, you go from doing fun things to being able to function, to being frail, to failure. And the idea is you want to go across with fun as far as possible and then just go to failure. You don't want to be on this slippery slope. So if you start thinking or hearing yourself like, I'm just functioning, like I can function, but I don't do the fun things. I don't play basketball. I don't play, it's funny, like Dr. Lux that I follow, Howard, he just said the other day, he had a post that a lot of people in my circle shared, and it was just like your identity, right? It's like, I'm a basketball player. And then he's like, well, when's the last time you played basketball? And they're like, high school. Like, okay, like you're not you're not playing basketball anymore. Like if you played basketball last week, like, okay, you're a basketball player, but we get stuck in like, we did that. We are a basketball player. Like, but you're not doing that now. So, if you want to, you got to sustain your fun and the fun things you're doing to go to failure. The more that you have in the bank, the less steep or the more gradual the decline is. And then you can, like, let's say you're on that slope, you can always change the trajectory by starting a fitness routine. By changing your patterns of eating, by changing your patterns of working out, you can stop that decline. And it even though you might be like, you're like, want to get back up to this high fun point, maybe you don't reach exactly where you want, but you stop the quick progression down.
I always think of those movies where somebody's like sliding off the cliff and somebody just grabs them real quick.
Yeah, just grabs them and then put them on a lesser hill. Like go from like a blue
and just pull them up. But it's a stopgap. If nothing else, it keeps you out of the bottom of despair.
It's never too late to start. And like when you start, those who start late actually have a quicker response than those that are, changing their program later.
No doubt.
And they, just because they've never done it. And so you can change the trajectory of that slope, I'm up here getting into skiing, instead of going down a black diamond, you're going to go down a green. Like, just don't go so hard, like go easy and coast into it. You can change your path if you change your ways.
Yep.
Behavior change is the game.
Yeah.
It sounds simple. It's not,
There's a lot of stigmas around like people like, oh, you're like, it's like you're the old guy in the club sometimes. Like I'm one of the oldest dudes in my boxing gym. A few of the boys there think I'm 10 years younger than I am, which is a huge ego boost.
Yes.
But I'm like, sometimes you're like, what are you doing, dude? You're the old dude in the gym hanging out with 16-year-olds. I'm like, or is it, dude?
Yeah.
Nobody your age can fucking do this.
Right.
And I think sometimes sometimes it's a lonely venture when you get fit, because you're outlasting your peers. And you find yourself going into younger circles that you don't align with those people culturally. So I think people actually have a tough time with that too. It's like, oh, that's only for young people.
Right.
That's because, well, everyone else in your age group has given up,
Right.
so
For sure.
yeah. Okay. So that's where you were trying to go with the prediction today. It's like you might not be able to get to your peak where you were if you were active. You might not even know where your peak was if you haven't been.
Right.
But you can stop and stay there and maintain and catch up to your peers as they continue to go down and surpass them just by maintaining where you are here.
Yeah.
Is in 10 years, if you're still there, well, now you're 10 years younger, but biologically,
Correct.
chronologically. So yeah, so musculoskeletal strength, this, by the way, I mean, we haven't touched nutrition and sunlight and hydration and sleep. Those are all pillars, but musculoskeletal strength is one of these things that kind of takes a backseat. People don't think about it with the aging process and how much it really, really helps
On all of those things too.
on all those things. Yeah.
Yep, for sure. For sure. Yep.
Okay. We'll put some of these charts up that you were talking about on obesity and diabetes, so just people can get the visual. Any kind of closing thoughts on people looking to get started or people looking to maintain? Is it, we always say minimum activity guidelines. We have an episode on that. Everyone should check that out, on what you should minimally be doing every week for all ages.
Yep.
That's always a great place.
Start small, don't start small, and it's all about consistency. That's the biggest thing, is if somebody is listening on this and you're on your path to getting started, it's consistency.
Yep.
Every day, behavior change, get used to doing it. Don't try to go too fast. Don't be fearful, seek help. That's why there's trainers, that's why there's people to help, to help you through.
And you don't have to be David Goggins doing 400 hours a week, 40 hours a week of exercise. It takes maybe
a lot done in 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah. You could do an hour a week total.
Yes.
And really make some significant gains just by doing very simple things that will make you feel better. So,
yep.
All right. You have patients to see. I have corporate matrix stuff to plug back into.
Yep. Okay.
So, all right. So one of our future guests, I'm trying to get, I think he agreed to, is going to be, this will be great to tie into, is the guy that's done a lot of the body transformation stuff for Hollywood actors that are getting into roles. And he's not one of these trendy guys. What I like about him is picking a specific goal, going for it, and kind of not, alluding to the trends and all this fancy stuff. So like when people really need to like cut weight or get ripped for a big role, he's one of the guys that they call. So it kind of fits into this stuff of like, you can transform really quick at advanced ages by setting a goal and sticking to it. And you're not being selfish, you're just being self-interested, which is a positive thing for your circle. So
I like it.
All right, Dr. Allison, she's dropping knowledge, body movement, get active, people, lift the weights, walk the steps, drink the water, sleep in the bed. Let's go. See you on the next one. Like and subscribe down below. Later.